The health and wellness industry is worth over $4.5 trillion. That's more than the GDP of Mexico, Canada, and Australia combined. There's a lot of money to go around, so it should come as no surprise that the industry is full of scumbags who prey on people's anxieties. From Gwyneth Paltrow to the Liver King, there's no shortage of grifters and degenerates peddling snake oil to unsuspecting consumers. They sell you courses that don't teach you anything, supplements that don't fix anything, and NFTs that aren't worth anything. There's very little that these people won't do for a quick buck, but never in a million years did I think somebody would fake cancer for money and fame. Well, that is until recently.
Belle Gibson is a mother, a businesswoman, and she's also living with brain cancer. But the 25-year-old has turned her cancer diagnosis into a positive, believe it or not.
5 years ago, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
She was diagnosed with terminal cancer a few years ago. After trying the traditional treatment methods, she turned to whole foods to heal herself instead.
For a person living with brain cancer, might I add, you look incredibly healthy.
Belle Gibson is someone who became famous in Australia because she claimed to have beaten terminal brain cancer using natural remedies and nutrition.
It's all a lie, a great big lie. She doesn't have cancer, never did.
Police have visited the Melbourne home of Belle Gibson after revelations that her claim she had cancer, which she used to create a wellness empire, may have been false.
You believed her. You know, you thought that her story had been checked out.
The 27-year-old duped thousands of followers into buying her wellness app and cookbook.
Belle Gibson is not a victim. She is a fraud. A fraud. A fraud. A fraud. A fraud.
What a am I right? Well, what are you gonna do? Hey guys, listen, I owe $400,000 to the IRS. So thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know me, you know I'm a guy who likes to listen to good music. And I've been using Raycons almost every day for the past few months, bumping my favorite tunes like this one. I use them when I'm cooking, I use them when I'm working, I even use them when I'm coming back home from your mom's house. The gel tips are so comfortable and fit perfectly in my ear. These bad boys will not budge, okay? Trust me. I got punched in the head like 42 times by a jealous husband, and the earbuds didn't move at all. Plus, now they got the noise isolation mode. That's cool, so you can block out the noise of your parents fighting in the next room. And they offer 8 hours of playtime with a 32-hour battery life. Not to mention, the price is right, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Barker would be proud because Raycons are like half the price of other premium audio brands. So if you want to get a pair of Raycons for yourself, click the link in the description of this video or go to buyraycon.com/Dantavius to get 15% off your purchase. That's buyraycon.com/Dantavius for 15% off. Every sale of Raycon gets me one step closer to paying off my massive debt to the IRS. So thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. Our story starts in the mythical land of Australia. Belle Gibson was born on October 8th, 1991. She grew up with a disabled mother and an autistic brother, and from a young age she was forced to take care of both her mom and her brother. And by age 12, she had already moved out of the house. At 16, she dropped out of high school and started working odd jobs to make ends meet. Fast forward to 2009, Belle was working at a call center when she began experiencing memory loss, dizziness, difficulty walking, and vision problems.
I'm legally blind.
But when she told her doctor about her symptoms, he kind of blew her off. He figured she was just another broad being dramatic, so he prescribed her some Prozac and sent her home. But it turns out she wasn't being dramatic at all. Just a week after visiting the doctor, Belle passed out on the toilet at work and woke up in the ICU. And that's when she got the worst news of her life. She was told that she just had a stroke. And even worse, she had inoperable brain cancer. And even worse, she only had 4 months to live. But hey, at least she still had that Prozac. Belle tried chemotherapy and radiation, but it wasn't working. In fact, it made the cancer even worse. 2 months into her treatment, Belle lost consciousness again, this time in the middle of a park. Very embarrassing. At this point, she decided she was done listening to health professionals, and she was going to treat herself the old-fashioned way. So she started researching alternative medicines, but the clock was ticking. At this point, she only had like 2 months left to live. But after a few sleepless nights, she came across something called Gerson therapy. Now, I had actually never heard of this, but the guy who invented it claims that it can cure cancer. It involves taking a lot of vitamins, drinking at least 13 glasses of juice per day, cutting out meat, dairy, sugar, gluten, and everything else that's delicious. And finally, doing up to 5 coffee enemas per day. And if you don't know what a coffee enema is, here's a clip, just to give you some context.
Fill a bucket with coffee. A hose attached to the bottom delivers the liquid to the lower intestine.
Put the nozzle into your rectum, hold it up in the air.
As they raise the bucket, 32 ounces of coffee fills their colon.
When the timer goes off, you want to make just a quick transition from floor to toilet seat as quickly as possible. It's going to come flying out of there like a torrent.
Her doctor said she was insane to try this, and after seeing that clip, I have to agree. But she proved them wrong again and again. Not only did she live past the 4-month deadline, but her cancer was actually shrinking. Her alternative medicine approach was working against all odds. And after being told by multiple doctors she couldn't have children, 2 years after her diagnosis, Belle miraculously gave birth to a healthy baby boy. But unfortunately, she named him Brandon. Either way, as the kids say, this was a common Belle W. Belle was basically proving everything we knew about medicine wrong. So it would be selfish not to share that with the entire world. So in 2012, she created an Instagram account to document her journey of healing cancer. Her bio said it all: game changer with brain cancer, plus a food obsession. Now, keep in mind that Instagram was still relatively new at this point, okay? It wasn't like the Instagram of today that's just full of hoes with Photoshop pictures trying to plug their OnlyFans. It was a more wholesome place. And her Instagram was basically a white woman's dream. Acai bowls, quinoa, avocado toast, and of course, plenty of selfies. It was like inspiration porn. Here's this beautiful, radiant young woman who was suffering from terminal brain cancer, and she's still living her best life. Meanwhile, here you are, in bed at 10 a.m. after drinking a whole bottle of wine on a Wednesday night, not doing shit with your life. Pathetic. Belle's inspirational story was really resonating with housewives all over the world. Within a few short months, she was able to rack up over 200,000 followers, which was a huge deal back then. Nowadays, your fucking grandma probably has more than that. But Belle was one of the first true wellness influencers on the gram. She said in an interview that the reason for her massive growth was because of her authenticity. I think too many people on social media overly edit themselves. Right from the start, I was very open and treated Instagram as my personal space. I really think it was that authenticity that people were attracted to. Now, obviously this quote is incredibly ironic. Either way, Belle realized that she had a cult-like following and decided to use that to her advantage. In early 2013, she started developing her very own smartphone app called The Whole Pantry. According to the app's description, The Whole Pantry is the new go-to place filled with continually updating library of resources, empowering information, lifestyle guides, and simple yet beautiful nourishing recipes. Man, it sounds too good to be true. And believe it or not, this app was developed in like 7 months, which would usually not even be close to enough time to develop an app. But it was surprisingly good. In fact, it was so good that it got 200,000 downloads in its first month alone. And it was voted Best Food and Drink App of 2013. The app was so successful that it started getting attention from Silicon Valley. Just a few weeks after launching, Belle got an email from Apple. You know Apple, the company that releases the same phone every year, but we still buy it anyways. Well, Apple wanted to fly Belle out to California to work on a top secret project. And a week later, Belle was in a boardroom at Apple headquarters, meeting with some corporate bigwigs. And the meeting could not have gone better. The executives were absolutely blown away by her inspiring story and her bubbly personality. They loved her so much that they offered her a deal right on the spot. Apple wanted Belle's Whole Pantry app to be one of the default apps that came pre-installed on the Apple Watch, which was set to release the next year. This was huge. This was like a multi-million dollar deal. And Apple weren't the only ones offering her deals. Penguin Random House Publishing reached out to Belle to ask if she was interested in doing a book deal. And of course she was. The book, also titled The Whole Pantry, was released on January 1st, 2014, and it was doing crazy numbers right out the gate, selling out everywhere in Australia. Belle basically had the perfect life at this point. She had a successful book, a deal with one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and best of all, it seems like her cancer had pretty much been cured. Or so she thought. During her son's 4th birthday, Belle lost consciousness and had multiple seizures in the span of a few hours, but refused to go to the emergency room for some reason. The next day, she posted about it on Facebook. "I have seizures often as a result of my brain cancer, but nothing ever this long or intense. Extremely grateful for my friends and family who were there to support me through this and my team who are looking for new answers." But the answers she got were not good. Her doctor told her that she had more cancer in her than a 4chan message board. It had spread from her brain to multiple other organs. On July 29th, 2014, she made this now infamous post on Instagram. "With frustration and ache in my heart, my beautiful game-changing community, it hurts me to find space tonight to let you know, with love and strength, that I've been diagnosed with a 3rd and 4th cancer. One is secondary and the other is primary. I have cancer in my blood, spleen, brain, uterus, and liver. I am hurting." At this point, it was safe to say the coffee enemas were no longer working. But hey, at least she now had a massive support network, and thousands of messages of love and encouragement flooded this post. But it also raised a lot of questions. Belle's story just wasn't adding up to some people. First of all, it's extremely rare for brain cancers to spread to other parts of the body. Also, if she was riddled with cancer, her immune system would be dog shit. And she was flying all over the world to exotic locations like Ethiopia, Bali, and Ohio with no issues. And then there's the simple fact that she just didn't look like somebody that was dying of cancer, alright? I'm not saying every cancer patient has to look like fucking Caillou, but apparently this disease was spreading to every corner of her body and she still looked like the picture of health. Kinda hard to believe that carrot juice and yoga was doing all that. And lastly, nobody really knew anything about her. It's almost like this woman didn't exist prior to 2012. No hospital records, no social media, no leases in her name, nothing. She was like a ghost. The only info people had about her was whatever she gave in interviews. Because of all these unanswered questions, a lot of rumors started swirling around that Belle was exaggerating her illness, but nobody wanted to be that schmuck that accused a single mother with brain cancer that she was faking it. So, for the most part, the rumors stayed underground. But then people started to look into Belle's so-called philanthropy, and things were not as they seemed. You see, Belle couldn't go more than 2 seconds without talking about how much money she was giving away. On the 3rd page of her book, she wrote, "A large part of everything the company earns is now donated to charities and organizations that support global health and well-being, protect the environment, and provide education to those who otherwise would not have the opportunity." She also said in an interview that she donated at least $300,000 to cancer charities. So these 2 journalists did a huge investigation into Belle, and they contacted every charity that she claimed to have donated to, and every single one of them said the same thing. Belle Gibson? Never heard of her. This biatch was lying about donating money to cancer charities. And keep in mind, she was making hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, if not millions. And this was just the tip of the iceberg, because if she was lying about donating money to charity, what else was she lying about? Well, it turns out everything. After the story broke about her false philanthropy, it was like a dam had just burst. Belle's friends started turning on her one by one. News outlets all over Australia were all of a sudden getting tips from people in Belle's inner circle who said they were skeptical about the severity of her cancer. According to the Sydney Daily Herald, a group of Belle's friends staged an intervention for her and questioned her about her illness. I asked her when she got her diagnosis. She said she didn't know. I asked her who gave her diagnosis. She said Dr. Phil. I asked if Dr. Phil had a last name and she didn't know. He disappeared. I asked her where she saw Dr. Phil and she said he came and picked her up from her house. Bro, is this broad serious? Dr. Phil? Really?
You're ugly, you're disgusting, I'm gonna kill you, give me $200.
Around this same time, a video was leaked of her getting media coaching from her publisher. They told her in an interview that she needed to, quote, get her story straight.
I think that you really need to get your story straight about the charities.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go there with that.
It's hard conversation.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different elements to it. You know, then I have to start being a scientist and start talking a science about biology and electronics and frequency and...
Yeah, that was not a good look. In less than a week, public sentiment went from she's an angel who can do no wrong to this bitch might actually be the most evil person on the planet. And once the hate train got rolling, it kept picking up more and more steam. Her ex-classmates and co-workers started calling into newspapers saying that Belle was always a pathological liar. One of her closest friends told a newspaper, quote, Gibson would present an all-natural persona online and then do things like eat McDonald's, drink alcohol, and take diet pills. Even her own mother exposed her. Remember at the beginning of this video how I said Belle cared for her disabled mother and autistic brother from a young age? Well, it turns out that was complete horseshit. This is what her mom told Australian Women's Weekly. What a load of rubbish. Her brother is not autistic and she's barely done a minute's housework in her life. I've practically worked myself into an early grave to give that girl everything she wanted in life. She also went on to say, I've never seen her cry in her life. I'm not even sure she's capable of empathy. And you know you fucked up when your own mom comes out against you. And the lies didn't even stop there. Belle lied about her birthday for some reason. She publicly claimed to be born in 1988, but her mom provided a birth certificate which clearly showed she was born in 1991. This broad lies more than my ex-wife. I didn't even think that was possible. As things continued to spiral, Belle went into full damage control mode. She started putting out statements, replying to people on Facebook, and even putting her Instagram on private. But all these things just made her look like even more of a putz. Then, on May 18th, 2015, Belle sat down for an interview with Australian Women's Weekly, the same newspaper that interviewed her mom. In the interview, they were pressing her on a lot of claims that she's made over the years. And at one point, they straight up asked her, do you or have you ever had cancer? And she said, quote, no, none of it is true. But hold on guys, it wasn't her fault, okay? You see, for years, Belle was being manipulated by a doctor who gaslit her into believing she had a brain tumor, when in fact she was perfectly fine. So this whole time she wasn't really lying, she was just the victim of a psychopathic physician, or at least that was her story. Now, obviously not a lot of people bought this because, let's be honest, it sounds like some Mickey Mouse bullshit. But despite making herself look like a complete asshole, Belle thought it would be a good idea to do another interview, this time with 60 Minutes Australia. This was her last chance to salvage what little reputation she had left.
Right, you claimed also in your book that you underwent chemotherapy and radiotherapy for 2 months. True or false?
At the time...
True or false?
True, because at the time I believed I was having radiotherapy.
So, false.
Yeah, this clip kind of sets the mood for the whole interview. It went absolutely terribly for her. The woman who interviewed her ate her up like a plate of spaghetti. Every word Belle spoke only dug her into a deeper and deeper hole.
You know, you go on Instagram in 2013. I have been healing a severe and malignant brain cancer for the past few years with natural medicine, Gerson therapy and foods. It's working for me.
It is. And if
Except you didn't have brain cancer.
No, I didn't.
No.
But when I was writing that, I thought that I did, and I was feeling well.
Yes, but even then you misrepresented what you thought was your truth, which was all a big lie. Anyway.
I'm really sorry.
At one point, the interviewer really pressed her on the doctor that convinced her she was sick.
She says in 2009 she met a man called Mark Johns, who told her he was an immunologist and neurologist, though no record of him exists.
So he comes to your home and he does some tests on you?
He does.
What sort of tests?
A machine with lights on the front, and that machine was apparently German technology. There's two metal pads, one that goes below the chair and one that goes behind your back, and then that measures what I believe or remember to be frequencies.
And what were the results?
He said to me that I had a stage 4 brain tumour and that I had approximately 4 months to live.
Oh, and it didn't stop there. They completely debunked her claim that she thought she had a brain tumor.
It was actually 2011, and a neurologist in a 40-minute face-to-face consultation tells Belle her brain scans are normal.
That 40-minute consultation with the neurologist proves that even if Belle thought at one time she had a brain tumour, she definitely knew in 2011 that she didn't. That's 2 years before she sold her sob story to the world.
Her appearance on 60 Minutes was basically the final nail in the coffin. She walked out of that building wishing she actually did have cancer. That's how bad it was. In the days following the interview, her book would be taken out of circulation, Apple cut ties with her, her app was removed from the App Store completely, and she rightfully became the most hated woman in the world. And we gotta remember, not only did she scam people out of some money, I mean, plenty of other influencers do that too. But the difference between Belle Gibson and somebody like, let's say, Logan Paul, is that she has blood on her hands. She is directly and indirectly responsible for people's deaths. Think about how many people with cancer decided to not do conventional treatment because they read Belle's book and thought, oh, she cured her cancer by eating cranberries. Think about how many of those people passed away from something they could have cured with just traditional chemo or radiation. Oh, and that's not even to mention that she was also an outspoken anti-vaxxer who blamed her fake cancer on the HPV vaccine. She deserves to be behind bars. Unfortunately though, that didn't happen. But she did face some repercussions. In 2017, an Australian federal court ordered Belle to pay over $500,000 in fines for making false claims about her so-called charitable donations. Belle, of course, claimed that she didn't have that kind of money, despite spending over $90,000 in the course of 2 years on clothes, cosmetics, and vacations. But the Australian government don't fuck around, and in 2019 they raided her home and tried to recoup some of that money. Now, you're probably wondering, what is Belle up to today? Is she still scamming people? Well, I'll give you guys a couple of guesses. Let me know in the comments which one you think it is. Did she A, marry a rich old dude and move to California? B, convert to Islam? C, change her name and go off grid completely? Or D, start an OnlyFans? If you answered B, you are correct. Belle apparently converted to Islam and became an honorary member of the Ethiopian Muslim community in Australia. But she's got a lot of work to do if she wants to bring the halal to haram ratio up.